Trustee Hyden muted. Say it again, sorry.
Okay. All right. The time is now 7:03 p.m. and I will call this meeting to order. May we have roll call, please?
Mayor Reichel?
Here.
Pro Tem Knott?
Here.
Trustee Britnall?
Here.
Trustee Klassen?
Here.
Trustee Flores?
Here.
Trustee Hanrahan?
Here.
Trustee Seifert?
Here.
All right. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Be seated. The first item on tonight's agenda is public comments. Persons desiring to make public comments on items not on the agenda, please activate the raised hand function in the meeting program. Or Sheila, any phone calls or emails in regards to non-agenda items?
No, I did not hear from anyone today, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
I have no raised hands at the moment.
Thank you. Do we have anyone sign in with us?
Did you? I don't have anybody signed in, but I may have one gentleman here who wanted to make a comment.
All right.
This is Derek Gangruth.
Draingroth? All right.
Gangruth.
Derek, would you like to come up to the table here? And I'm just going to ask our town attorney for a real quick clarification. I believe this is for the panorama water thing where my parents live. Should I?
It's
No.
just comment, isn't it?
Yeah, it was, I wasn't at the last meeting. It was,
You're not taking any action.
Any
You're
action,
just-
okay.
You're just hearing a comment.
Okay, all right. Go ahead, sir.
so I was informed that maybe we'd hear a yes or no answer at this meeting as far as tying into the town of Silt for the water. I wasn't at the last meeting. We did discuss it at an HOA meeting a
Okay.
few weeks ago.
So, Mr. Mayor, we received an email, 3 or 4 weeks ago? Was it Trey? Was it about
Yes,
3?
we received an email 3 or 4 weeks ago saying that they were going to look at the pricing again because the pricing had went way up, and we just was gonna let it be until they got back with us. I heard back from their engineer last week on like Wednesday or Thursday after packet was kind of already finalized that they were inquiring again about having to go ahead and do it and figure out the funding. So that's why you have nothing in your packet tonight, and I told them that it wouldn't be an agenda item tonight.
Okay. So would it be discussed at the next meeting?
Yes,
Then,
we'll have to
okay.
bring it back up.
So-
I was gonna bring it up during the during my board report.
Okay. So it will be an agenda item on November 28th?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
There, can we get Dewberry and Tony back in here? Because there's some, I think some misunderstanding on what they had said as far as being able to supply water. Can we have them here at that meeting?
So I think there are 2 issues that staff is going to have to discuss internally, and we'll want to reach out before that meeting to the owners association. The first one is that the town probably doesn't have water to give you right now because we are in the process of designing a new water treatment plant. And that the existing plant's capacity is probably at its limit when it factors in some amount of growth from in-town lots that have been approved and are ready to build out. And so the new treatment plant is probably 3 to 4 years away.
3?
3. I think you should be saying 4. They say 3. 4 would be lucky.
Depends on whether we get January or
Yeah.
the next January.
The other issue, and we have not, so we reached out to the Colorado Division Engineer, the Water Rights Administration, to talk about whether the town's water rights can be used to serve Panoramic. And we got a very hazy message back from the state that they thought we may have a problem doing that. And I have not followed up on that in light of the email that we got from the engineer 3 or 4 weeks ago saying, hey, put the brakes on things. We don't, we're looking at what our other options are. And whether or not we can get to the bottom of that in the next 2 weeks is doubtful.
Just when you were saying that, you mean that was from their engineer representing their HOA, you mean?
Correct.
To say put the brakes on that? Okay.
The gentleman who was in
Jeremy.
here, yeah.
Jeremy with Whitewater,
Westwater.
Westwater, sorry, yes.
Yeah.
Too many waters out there.
So it may, I guess what I would say is I think Trey and Jeff and I need to communicate internally about what we as a staff need to pull together to properly evaluate this request. And it may or may not be ready in 2 weeks.
I would like to maybe just support, and I know this is your comment, but for what Sam had mentioned, when that is ready to report back to the board and to the residents of Panoramic, that we do have those water engineers available for discussion and questions, and I would certainly recommend, you and as many residents there come and be a part of that discussion to make sure that everybody has the same information. So from our board standpoint, the resident standpoint, water engineers, our attorney, just so everybody understands, A, is it possible, and then kind of go from there. So that way, just all of that, there's going to be a lot of information delivered there. So just in light of not losing any of that in translation, I suppose it would be great to see as many residents as possible here for that conversation. So anyway.
Okay. So 28th, we'll have some discussion,
Okay.
whether we have all the answers or not. Maybe not. Okay?
Okay.
All right, so we invite you to come back 2 weeks. All right?
Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, which contains the minutes of the October 24th, 2022 Board of Trustees meeting, the approval of the 7-party memorandum of understanding regarding the Garfield County senior programs for 2023, the approval of the intergovernmental agreement for Garfield County senior programs, the traveler services for 2023, the approval of the fermented malt beverage liquor license renewal for Golden Gate Petroleum, resolution number 24, series 2022, a resolution of the Board of Trustees appointing Lori Malsbury as the Deputy Town Clerk, Deputy Town Treasurer of the Town of Silt, Colorado, and resolution number 21, series 2022, a resolution approving the special use permit to allow for a fabrication of marble and stone business to operate in Units 6 and 7 of 401 Main Street within the Town of Silt, Colorado. Would anyone like to discuss any of those separately or make a motion?
Not specifically separately, however, I'd like to make a couple comments if you don't mind.
Okay.
I think it's important to note on the resolution number 21, series 2022, the special use permit for that second marble factory or, fabrication. If you read through there, it's all the same requirements that we put on the other special use permit as far as where they store their outside granite, being fenced, the type of fencing. So that's all the same, so I don't know that we have to go back through that, so I'm okay with that. And I wanted to ask Mayor Reichel regarding number 3, the approval of the intergovernmental agreement for the Garfield County Senior Travel or Traveler Program. In the past, we've had discussions just regarding RAFTA's involvement, us funding it. We've always approved it in the past, however, I don't know if you wanted to go over that again, or if not.
I don't know if it's worth going over again. I just,
Okay.
I always feel like that should be an RFP on between the 7 parties to see if some other private entity might be interested in running that program instead of it going directly to RAFTA.
We've had pretty deep discussions about that before, but it always goes back and we've approved it, but I just thought maybe it was worth bringing up, so.
Yeah.
And I'm good with that special use permit, so.
Well,
Mr. Mayor, I would also like to take a moment to introduce Lori Malsbury. She is joining us tonight via Zoom.
Okay.
Lori worked for us before, and she graciously accepted our pleas to come back to work for us, and then we'll be serving in the capacity of the deputy clerk and treasurer so that Amy and I can start to give a little bit of work off to somebody else and maybe take a little time off or
Give
whatever.
vacation.
Anyway, she is going to be learning the ropes for both of our positions to a certain degree to step in and help out whenever needed.
Is she gonna be working part-time or is she gonna be full-time? Full-time.
She is full-time. She's full-time. She's already doing a lot of training with Amy on the AP and the treasurer side of it, and I've started doing some training with her on the clerk side as well. And she's just kind of helping out as a backup for utility billing, in addition to everything else that she used to do when she was here before.
Great.
All right.
We're
Awesome.
glad to have her back.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hello, Lori. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be back.
Nice.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I just want to make sure that Pro Tem Knott's not confused. The one that's in the consent agenda
Yes.
is the people that were here the last time. This is the second reading.
Oh.
The other one
Okay.
is on the agenda for tonight.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
You're totally right. Okay, thank you for that clarification.
So yeah, this is the approval of the one that was at the last.
I got you. Okay.
our
Yep, I was
October
confused on that,
24th
so
board
thanks.
meeting. We have another one coming in tonight.
Okay.
But it is the same requirement set forth for both
It is.
businesses, so,
Which would make sense.
yeah.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve this consent agenda as it's presented here.
Second.
Justin got it.
We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Knott to approve the consent agenda as presented, seconded by Trustee Britnall. All's in favor?
Aye.
All's opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Congrats, Lori. Thanks.
Thanks, Lori.
Thanks, Lori.
Do any board members have any
Yay.
You too. Yes.
No, sir.
Any conflicts of interest from board members tonight for agenda items?
None.
Okay. Do we have any agenda changes tonight?
Not for me.
Nope.
Anything from staff?
I was just going to mention the panoramic at staff comments or board
Okay.
or comments, but
Okay. All right, then the next item on the agenda is resolution number 20, series 2022, a resolution of the Town of Silt Board of Trustees adopting the updated Garfield County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan for 2022. I will turn this over to Administrator Lehman.
So we have tonight Sergeant Chad Whiting with the Garfield County Sheriff's Office. If you want to come up, Chad, and have a seat here at our place of honor. I will turn it over to him, but before I wanted to mention that we did uncover a couple, and maybe you did too, a couple of minor inaccuracies that we'll work with Chad to correct, but I don't think there's anything in there that that should impact your ability to adopt the plan tonight so that we can move forward with it. I also point out that we've had a couple conversations about that siren, and that's mentioned in the plan as well. So we'll continue to bring that up again. So, Chad, with that, I'll turn it over to you.
So what this plan is it's a way for our community to come together and plan for hazard problems and plan for the mitigation of those. So your part of the plan was actually built with Jeff and Trey and other people from your city. I sat in on those calls, but I didn't have any comment. I was there if they had questions. That was my part of it. What this does is it opens up grant funding for you to complete some of those mitigation actions that you have in the plan. And also, if there is an actual event, it opens up post-disaster grants, where if you don't adopt it, then those grants and that funding wouldn't be available to you through FEMA and that. So it just goes with our county plan and then all the different communities that were involved. So fire districts, all the cities, and us. It just makes that plan cohesive so we can all kind of be on the same page. And then, like I said, your mitigation actions were all put in there by your folks as stuff that they saw as hazards that needed mitigated. So it opens some of that funding up coming down from Biden's federal grant funding that he just put out. So, any questions? Really, that part of it is your guys' plan. Like I said, I didn't have any influence on it. I was there for questions, so.
Okay.
Some of the mitigation that's identified in there is for wildfire, obviously, and the fire district's already been in identifying some areas and actually even cleaning up a few, I think, so.
So then that goes in, it also involves a community wildfire plan that the fire districts have all signed off. We actually did both those plans this year, and are working on the county emergency operations plan also. So we hope to be all cut up with our planning by January 1 and then have it in place. There's also allowances in this plan to revisit, not every 5 years. We can revisit with your people on a yearly basis to see if we need to make changes. It's a living document that we can go back in, and some parts of it, like the main part, has to be adopted by resolution. But as we go through the years and find other things that maybe something changes, we can add that to the plan without having to go through this process again.
Okay. I have no questions, or
I don't
anybody?
I don't either.
As long as the people that know what we need to do and we need to do it, we're good to go.
It sounds like that's the case.
Sounds like it's the case, yeah.
All right, Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve resolution number 20, series 2022, as it's presented.
Second.
Okay. Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Knott to approve resolution number 20, series 2022 as presented. That was seconded by trustee Seifert. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
All right.
Thank you, Chad, for coming
Thanks,
in.
Chad.
Thank you.
Next item is the Garfield County Education Center and Outdoor Classroom presentation. And I will turn this over to Director Fawner.
Thank you. We have Carla here. She is the Garfield County Director for Colorado State University Extension Office. Currently, they are, with additional community organizations and other partners, they are building the Garfield County Educational and Outdoor Classroom Center in Rifle. This will be a part of Colorado State University Extension to offer services and science-based education. Not just, most people think extension, think 4-H and kids. There's also the cottage food industry. There's others besides just kids that this classroom will support and help, and I will let her take it over, and she can tell you in much better detail.
I know, are they going to play the presentation or?
Yes, we do not have, there it is. Just wasn't on the TVs in here.
Shrinked a little. Dum, dum, dum.
There you go.
Okay, So this is a perspective drawing of what the front of the old Napa warehouse would look like, because this is the facility where we're looking at, is where the old Napa warehouse is and the land behind it. So this is the architect rendition of what the front of the building would look like, repurposing the warehouse to turn it into a 2-story education center. So I believe the next part of that presentation is what the first floor would look like. So the first floor would be divided in half, with half of that being range for air rifle and indoor archery, as well as shop to teach woodworking, welding, electricity skills. Because one of the things that we're working with our school districts is a high school shop teachers want kids to come in knowing how to use a hammer. When we talk to our ranchers, they want kids to know how to climb a ladder safely. So, because they're looking for, the next workforce, and I know a lot of us are, as well as housing the extension office. Downstairs, you'll notice there's shower facilities. Back in, it was before 2020, so 2019 when we had the Cache Creek fire, this facility was actually used because the fire was in the fall to house the wildland firefighters so that they could have extra shelter because we dropped to sub-freezing temperatures those evenings. But we set it up so that if we needed to, the second floor could be turned into sleeping quarters. They would have shower facilities downstairs so that we would be ready to actually be able to house firefighters in those circumstances where they can't stay outside because of the weather. The next slide actually shows the prospective top floor, which is the second floor. So we would be able to have a classroom, could turn into 4 classrooms, but also be a ballroom that could hold 299 people. Would have teaching kitchens, which is a home-style kitchens versus commercial kitchens. Because we're trying to teach young people or families who have never learned how to cook before, how to cook, it's easier to replicate in a home-style kitchen versus a commercial kitchen, which we have quite a few of those. And then there'll be a lobby, and that glass window actually looks down into the range. So that's the kind of tentative plans for the building, and we do have 100% architectural plans done already. I believe the next slide goes into the outdoor, is some of the photos, renditions from the architects. So this is what the lobby area would look like, where you could see into the shop, so families could watch and see what kids are learning, and or it could also be a place for adults to learn as well. Next slide. This would be looking from up above. So you can kind of see the upstairs and the lobby and looking down over the reception area. Next slide. And again, this is looking down through those windows in the upstairs lobby into what you could see in the shop. So you can actually, families can sit up there and have internet access, do things that they want to do, but actually kind of watch the kids and see what they're learning too. And or vice versa, kids could be sitting up there learning stuff and watching what parents are learning. Next slide. It's a little more of the lobby, so you can kind of see how that opens up. So that white wall there is a 30-foot wall, which we would use for our Clover Wall of Fame. This is where we put everybody who's donated to the building on. Next slide. So this takes us into the outdoor classroom, and I have brought a copy of the master plan, so I'll leave a copy here. I don't know if you gave them all of that too. We worked during COVID, which is a harder time to do a master plan of any outdoor space, with the University Technical Assistance out of Denver with a DOLA grant to actually do this outdoor classroom. So you would see me wandering around the land taking videos and pictures, because how else was I going to get it to kids who weren't allowed to travel? So the university students who are working on architectural degrees are the ones who helped us put this plan together with community input from different areas. So next slide. So this is what the final design would look like for that land. So you can see the green is the land. You can see where it ties right into the educational center. So we would have Rifle Creek runs through there, so we'll be able to do some water education. We already have a River Watch program going to teach water education to kids. So we've actually gone through working with Garfield County Vegetative Weed Management and Rocky Mountain Youth Corps to remove the tamarisk and Russian olives that are down there, to clean up that area from the noxious weeds and things, to make it more accessible right now. But we would actually have some picnic tables that are solar powered, so that the kids can come over from the middle school, and kids can all meet there from the different middle schools and be able to plug in their Chromebooks and charge, but to be able to do outdoor classroom stuff. We would have a couple small outdoor classrooms as well as a large amphitheater for education and or other events as we would need. And then there would be grow and give gardens to teach people how to grow, Families could use those to grow food, but also then to provide food, fresh fruits and vegetables to the local food banks, which is important for all of our communities. Next slide. So this is kind of the artist rendition of what the amphitheater area would look like. So if you see the backside of that, there's concrete. Looks like stair steps going up, and that's to reinforce the parking lot that's up there from the fairgrounds. So most of you know, if you ever look down from that fairgrounds, it's a big hill, but how do we reinforce that and make it usable space? So we thought create some kind of stair steps so you could sit on that side and or sit on the lawn side. Next slide. So this would be what we call our sun trap gardens, using our natural trees that we would have in the area, teach people how to garden and use the trees to hold the heat in to make them last longer. So become an educational space that we can take then that information and move from community to community so others can see how we do that. Next slide. And this would be where the educational gardens are. So all the raised garden beds would also turn into hoop houses so we can teach people how to extend the gardening season. And we can teach them there, teach them how to build a hoop house with their own garden so that they could extend their own growing season to grow their own vegetables at home. Because we found that if you can teach people how to do it and let them practice and learn, then they have a more apt ability to be able to learn and take it back to their own places. And then there'll be some raised gardens going up to the Education Center. And the next slide. And this is a little bit about the water education. There'll be natural rock seating next to Rifle Creek, and talk about hydro water and how water is used to make energy. We know we can't keep it inside the Rifle Creek. It'd be something we could put in and out, but to talk about how water makes energy. We have a Shoshone power plant for one big thing in our area, and why shouldn't we not teach the kids about this? Maybe it'll spark an interest for someone to learn more about water education and electricity. Next slide. And that's a little bit about our wall of fame. It's going to look like Garfield County. Our goal is to put all the towns on it, because the number one question I get is, I'm in Rifle, how far is it to Silt? And where is that from Carbondale? And where is it from here? So one of our things is when we're bringing in people from across the community, it's amazing how people don't know, even in Rifle, where are we at in proximity to different areas. So this way we can kind of show off our county, show off where all of our communities are, and that's a little bit about our donors that we have right now. But I wasn't here to ask money, it's more to ask for a letter of support. We're working on trying to write a grant. We'll find out Thursday if we get to write the grant to GOCO for a capital impact grant to help offset the cost of the land. We already have the cash match in hand, ready to go, but it's more a letter of support from you guys to be able to say, yes, we as the community of Silt would like to support the application for this grant as it goes forward.
Gotcha. Good presentation.
Thank
So
you.
you guys looking to buy that property?
The county actually bought it all.
That's what I thought. I thought
The
something-
county bought it all purposely for educational purposes. So my job as CSU Extension Director was to help work with putting these plans together, bring the people to the table, the kids to the table, to do different education. And we got 1,800 surveys back from kids, what they wanted to see. Gardening, water education, archery.
That's awesome.
Those are the three things our kids in District RE2 and District 16 wanted.
So the 5.3 million is to completely retrofit that building?
Everything, including the purchase of the land.
Gotcha.
So the land purchase is already done, it's already paid for.
Great. Anyway, yeah, I support it. We'd love to see it in Silt, but we don't have like a ready-to-go building like that, so.
I borrow the town center to do a lot of education as much as I can.
It's great. We've been talking about our valley needing something like this as long as I've been on the board, so a technical place. So what ages will you guys cater to?
We cater to from 5-year-olds all the way up to, I think my oldest person in class is 93.
Oh, great. And then as far as like the payment structure, I mean, how does that work as far as, the cost of anybody, whether it's a kid or an adult?
It depends on the classes. So like for
Okay.
4-H, our typical 4-H enrollment fees are $35
Okay,
from 8 to 18.
yeah,
Clover buds are 20 because they're just learning the taste of 4-H, what is 4-H about. All of our after-school programs that we do some throughout the valley. Most of all of our after-school programs are free.
oh, great.
We do Family Fun Fridays with CMC. Those are offered through CMC at no cost to them. We actually work on finding other grants to fund it. When I teach senior nutrition classes, I've done several this last year for Silt specifically, including, how should Silt seniors be ready for an emergency? What do they need to do? What are their things to do? Anything we do for the senior centers, we offer for free, because it's important. They've done a lot of community service already. They just want some extra education to learn stuff. So I try to do those for free. Most of our typical classes range from $10 to $15. Colorado Master Gardeners is a $200 for an 11-week course. It's taught through the university, which if you did that for credits is basically they're doing the same kind of coursework. You would get an $1,800 credit class. So we try to do things more reasonable. The cottage foods class is probably the one that offsets the most of my family consumer sciences, because it's about building a business. There's a lot of certifications we have to do for that cottage foods class, and it is $50. But we do offer some scholarships for things if people can't do it. But once you build a business, the recertification is about the business. It's not about just starting off. So we do a lot of sliding scale. We do a lot of education for the community as part of our investment that the county commissioners help fund part of our programming.
Yeah.
So
Do you guys pass out information to the local schools? I've never
we do.
heard of you.
We have, this is the first year Taylor has been at every school at opening event. So in the past, when I first started, I was the only 4-H and FCS person in the office. And we have 55 school buildings in the county, as well as 10 library districts and 5 rec districts. So one person to try to handle all of that, plus run 350 4-H kids and 120 volunteers, is a lot.
Yeah.
So our goal is to try to do more education about what is CSU Extension. We have programming from family consumer science to ag and natural resources to weed identification to soil testing, garden testing, as well as youth development. So we are now a staff of 4 of us to do what I was doing by myself for the longest time.
Quarter of the work now. What's your projected timeline?
Our goal that we've been given by the county commissioners is try to finish raising the funds for this build out by the end of this fiscal year. So that's what we're working on right now, in hopes that we can put the RFPs out this winter to start construction this summer.
Oh, that'd be great.
That is the plan. The GOCO Capital Impact Grant, if we are selected to get apply, we'll know on Thursday. It's due January 5th, and we would know by March, which would allow us to do build out this summer for the outdoor classroom.
That'd be really great. So when you get done with that, then I'm going to suggest that you contact RE2 and then you figure out some way to utilize this Roy Moore building that we have in the town that's just sitting there full of crap.
Well, maybe that should be the new outdoor education
I
center
agree
for
with you.
RE2. I will.
Yes.
I also sit as one of the chair people for the Garfield County Outdoors, which is ran through the 2 school districts. And I'm also their fiscal agent for their grant. So I will suggest that to Scott, that he needs to grab that
Thanks.
building.
And I will support your letter of recommendation. So. Okay, I have nothing else to say.
This one's a pretty easy one to.
Yeah.
We can do letters of support.
Letter
all
of
day long.
support.
Yeah. They don't cost us money. It's going into our water plant.
That's right.
How much, sponsorships, just since maybe some public's listening, does it matter? What?
It can be anything. We got a $50 sponsorship today. We've gotten $20, $10 from 4-H families. We did a program called Double Your Enrollment, or Double Up. Would you do double? So 4-H families have a way to, because we offer a discounted enrollment for kids coming back. And so a lot of them doubled up and did $10, $25, whatever they could afford. And we've gotten as much from one individual donor as $500,000.
Well,
wow.
It's
So.
the town's budget, but to get our name on the wall of fame. But
Maybe not Jerry's budget.
get our name on the wall of fame?
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Do we need an action item to get the letter of support, or is just kind of the consensus of the board that we supporting?
Yeah. That's enough action. Yeah.
We're happy to write that letter.
Great.
And I think I sent a draft across.
Yeah, she actually sent a draft. We just need to sign it
Okay.
for the most part.
Yeah, I support this.
Me too.
Thank you very
I'd
much for
support
coming.
it. Some money. How about you guys?
I think that's. We're doing budget right now.
Yeah.
There's probably a few other programs that I would rather not support than this one. So.
I understand. Let's talk about it then.
Yes,
Not
talk
now.
about
but
Yeah.
when we're going through budget,
Okay.
it's worth bringing up, I think. It's a good point, Sam.
Which we're doing right now, so we probably need
What-
to discuss it next meeting at
Well,
the
what kind of
latest.
number would you be
I mean, yeah.
thinking about, and we'll put it in there? Not to force you into a discussion tonight, but
What do you think, Sam?
$5,000? Is that too much?
Nope.
I'd be okay with that.
I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with it.
well, and you have it, so.
I think that would, I mean, this is gonna benefit our citizens, so
The
I think
greater
it's
good.
definitely worth throwing $5,000.
And it's already benefiting some of your citizens, the programs that they
Programs.
do.
And they do
Yeah.
programs here, and that's the thing too, is that not only is it this, but this, having this done will allow you to do more stuff other places, so you can do
It'll
things.
allow
in
us
Silt
to
and
do
other
more
places.
stuff. The nice thing about this new education center, the technology that'll be in it will allow us to connect to educational programming at the Spur campus, which if you haven't heard about that is the new CSU campus that is in connection with the National Western Stock Show. So we have what's called the the Vita building, which is a health building. We have the Terra building, which is all about food and ag. And then they will be opening the Hydro building, which is about water and water education in January. So, and it's to offer education both from there to here and here to there. So I've been asked to teach a lot of food safety for there, but at this point in time, until we have enough technology, and I know I'm not going to get kicked off of Zoom, it's really not possible. So that'll be the nice thing, is we'll have the technology to be able to communicate and become that collaborative campus.
So, Mr. Mayor, being this is an action item, do we need to make a motion of any kind? Sign the letter?
I think we have directed staff well enough
Or can we-
that we're gonna write them a letter of intent, or of support, not intent, and we will see if we can throw $5,000 in 2023 budget.
Yep.
Appreciate that.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming.
Consider it done.
And I'll leave a printed copy with the plan.
Oh, great,
So if
thanks.
anybody wants to look at the master
Yeah.
plan.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Thank you very
you.
much. Have a
Carla.
good night.
Thank you.
All right.
You want to fix that right here? I'll squeeze in next to Trey.
Yeah.
All right, the next item on the agenda is resolution number 22, series 2022. A resolution approving the special use permit to allow for a fabrication of marble and stone business in Unit 1B of 401 Main Street within the town of Silt, Colorado. This is a public hearing, just so we know, but I will turn this over to Community Development Manager Centeno.
Alrighty. So we have Mr. Gallegos here. He is the owner of Mountain Marble and Granite, and he has applied for a special use permit to fabricate marble and stone in Unit 1B of 401 Main. That is a 1,500 square foot space that he has been located in for the past 3 years, unaware that he needed a business license or that there was an additional zoning requirement outside of what his landlord had told him that it was okay to operate there. It's in the same building as the marble shop that we brought in front of you all last time. Town staff found that the proposed business is found to be a compatible use in that location. It complies with the town comprehensive plan. Town staff doesn't see any foreseeable negative impacts from the business operating there. And this last week, Director Fonner evaluated and inspected the system that Mr. Gallegos is currently utilizing to filter the dust particles prior to the water being redistributed to the town wastewater. The system that Mountain Marble and Granite uses is a little bit different than the one that Canyon Creek Custom Flooring uses. But Director Fonner is confident that the system is being used appropriately, filtering what is necessary in order to not negatively impact our treatment plant. Town staff is recommending approval with the similar conditions of the other marble shop, with all representations of the applicant made in writing application materials and verbally at the planning commission and trustee meeting. The bigger one that I was talking to Mr. Gallegos about was the requirement to have the winged fencing, and he is more than happy to put that in and make sure all storage is behind the building. And we're still trying to find something similar to the picture that you had pulled up. That picture just takes you to a real estate website. So we're trying to find something as similar to that as possible. And I was talking to Mr. Gallegos earlier today, and I told him we would like the consistency of whatever is being put in on the west side to also be put in on the east side so that they're matching. And so he said that he was gonna comply with that. And then I'll talk to Mr. Lemon of the other marble shop and make sure that everybody's on the same page with the
Well,
same
and if the
fencing.
two shops to get together, they might get a deal because, I mean, they're buying a little bit more fence, so.
They might, that's a good idea, yes. I put in here for Mr. Gallegos to have the same time frame that we gave the other marble shop, which would be for him to have everything behind the screen fence behind the building no later than March 1st. He's confident he can do it prior to that, but that would be the deadline. The permits would be required for the fence, and Mr. Gallegos is responsible for making sure that it's not in any alleys, easements, right-of-ways. And then Mr. Gallegos will provide any additional requested documents and pay any remaining fees to the town. And that is what I have. Do you have anything to add?
Not at the moment.
Okay, any questions or comments?
I think we had a lot of discussion last time, so we kind of hammered.
Yeah,
a
I
lot
think
of
last
numbers.
meeting
That makes
kind of
this
covered
one-
everything.
I appreciate the fact that the consistency of keeping the two similar timelines and everything else, because it keeps it fair for the two businesses.
Is he gonna put a slab like the other one, a cement slab, or just be it for storage?
I believe the property owner did a slab all the way across, correct?
He has a slab already, concrete on the storage.
Oh, okay. Okay. Didn't know how far it went. Okay.
So when we talked to the other stone company, I don't remember exactly, but didn't they have to pay something retroactively to when they took tenancy of the building and started operating their business there?
Yes, both marble shops were summoned into court.
Okay.
And they both have to pay the same fees. So it's up to the point that the special use is approved.
Yeah,
And then,
okay.
and then the judge will collect fees retroactive of when they were summoned into court.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Can you tell us more about that system as far as filtering out, the dust and the particles, and the difference between the two systems and?
Yeah, basically the system that the first one was using, sorry, I don't remember their names.
Okay.
They collect all their water, all their dust, and they have a third party come in, pump that out, and take it away. They put it in like a containment. This one, they actually have a series of filters. As it goes through, it strains out the dust, and then they clean the system once a week or more, depending on how much they did, and put it into another container, which gets taken to the dump, because it's just the dust. And if you was to go to look at it, he had it open for me the other day when I was in there. As you go down through all the filters, when they got to the last one, where it actually goes in, it looked almost like clear drinking water.
Oh, cool.
They were filtering the majority of it out, and what was getting through after that, I don't see to be a problem. It looked pretty minimal.
Good. Yeah. You guys are right. We went through it last time, so it's all good.
We're a marble mecca.
We're a marble mecca, I guess.
Seems that we are.
Sorts of marble companies.
Same conditions.
I didn't know there was that much need for custom. Well, I guess you probably do a lot of your stuff out Valley too, don't you?
Most of it is in Aspen.
Oh yeah, kind of.
Yeah,
okay,
Aspen is Nomas is most of the work.
Cool. How many employees do you have over there?
Huh?
How many employees do you have, or is it just you?
Right now we're like total people 5.
Anybody live in Silt?
No, right now they
Okay.
live on in Rifle.
Oh, gotcha. See, it's not bringing jobs.
It might be when they need 6 employees.
Nah, no, I'm just kidding. It's all good.
It's not the exact product, but because this is in Australia, but it's called Color Bond steel fencing.
Okay, that's awesome.
That-
I will look that up.
We'll give some more representation photos at least of what I think we were looking for.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments by the board? This is a public hearing, so.
No.
Nope.
Okay. The time is now 7:47 PM, and I will open up the public hearing in regards to resolution number 22, series 2022. Persons desiring to make public comment on this agenda item, please activate the raised hand function in the meeting program. Or Sheila, any phone calls or emails in regards to this agenda item?
No, sir.
Okay.
I do not show any hands raised at this moment.
Thank you very much. And we have nobody from the public here with us in the chamber, so. The time is 7:48 PM, and I will close the public hearing and open up to further discussion by the board or a motion.
Any more discussion on that?
I don't have anything.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the special use permit for Mountain Marble and Granite to operate a stone fabrication business at 401 Main Street, Unit 1B, located in the B2 Commercial Zone District, with the staff recommended conditions above, numbers 1 through 4.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Not to approve resolution number 22, series 2022. That was seconded by Trustee Hanrahan. All is in favor?
Aye.
All is opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right. Thank you, sir, for joining us.
Thank you very much for coming in.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
All right. Scroll down here for a few minutes.
Exactly.
Trying to get down to the next agenda item in the packet. A lot of pages.
120.
All right.
Thanks, dude.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is the amendment to the development agreement, Lot 2, Village at Painted Pastures site plan, and I will turn this over to Attorney Sawyer.
So we've got two items on your agenda back to back. They both relate to the Village at Painted Pastures. They're separately noticed because they involve two separate agreements. For those of you who were on the board a few years ago, you may recall that Painted Pastures came in first for a subdivision of the property that is to the south of Highway 6 into three separate lots. As part of that subdivision, there was a subdivision improvement agreement that was approved, outlining the various public improvements that would be made to facilitate that subdivision. Short time later, Painted Pastures, or the developer, came in requesting a approval of a site plan for Lot 2. Lot 2 is where the apartments are currently being constructed, and as part of that site plan process, there was a development agreement that was approved by the town, identifying public improvements specific to Lot 2 that were going to be built as part of that development. So we've got for the development agreement for Lot 2, they have requested that we make modifications. Specifically, Exhibit B to the development agreement contemplated that an access drive across Lot 1 onto Highway 6 would be completed in 2022. The developer desires to extend that period of completion to April of 2023. Again, so this would be heading from where the apartments are being built to the east, and then eventually there will be a connection onto Highway 6 at that point. They didn't get to the level of construction, I guess, this season to put that last piece of infrastructure in. They've asked for an additional 6-7 months to make that happen. Trey and I and Derek have talked about this. We don't have a problem with that. So that's the first item, and if you have questions on that, we can talk about it, and then we'll move to the amendment to the subdivision improvement agreement.
It's a little hard to do it when the ground's frozen.
Well, I would just like to maybe make a point, though, is you're right. I don't see that there is a problem extending that. However, it just kicks their sense of urgency down the road. There wasn't anybody working over there for 4 or 5 days when that crazy windstorm came through. It ripped all that Tyvek off those buildings, and it looked like an abandoned construction zone. So the consideration would be, yeah, we're okay with extending your guys' construction deadlines, but then that thing's never going to get done over there, So Anybody else feel that same way, or is it just me?
No, I agree. I agree. Is there any reasoning behind why they're kind of dragging their feet?
I guess, Trey, you may have had some communications. What I have been told is the classic contractor woe of supply chain and labor shortages and not being able to get things as promptly as they wanted.
It would give them more time to build that road, since they can't build the building, right?
Well, they're only asking through
April of '23.
23, I mean, at this point, the asphalt plant's getting close to shutting down, so.
Fine. Just saying.
I know, I completely agree. I mean, they knew this deadline was coming since this project started, so.
Yeah.
I mean,
And this goes back to 2021.
This is a developer that our planning and building department wasn't quick enough for them, so.
They got their own.
They got their own, and now they're asking for an extension because they're behind.
Yeah, I remember all that. Yeah.
You know, this will be the thing where I'll be on board for one extension, but I will not be on board for extension number 2.
Yeah.
All right,
What happens if we say no?
They got to build a road.
No,
follow it
if
through
you,
to
I
its
guess
logical
if you
conclusion.
say, if you were to say no, we'd call their letter of credit and we would have to do the same work in March and April of 2023 because it would, you know, it's too cold.
Yeah. We would just take their money and have to do it ourselves.
And he doesn't want that work. He's got too much other stuff.
We've got a lot of good
going on.
work we want Trey to
Hold on, can we hear that from Trey really quick? Is that true?
Yes.
Okay. All right, one extension is okay. I think it's just important as we go through this that they get the message from, you know, town staff as they're going through this that like we sense that they're way behind and we just feel like they need to have some urgency behind this project. So we gave them a lot of concessions to get the roundabout built and run this through, and then all of a sudden it's just there's nothing happening over there. So
You can't ask us to speed up and then ask to be given more time on your side, right?
I mean, you can, but
Yeah.
You can ask.
you
yes,
can ask, so. I mean,
It's not going to go well, but
Yeah.
okay.
I agree with the mayor. I'm fine with this one extension, but anymore, no.
So this is complete by April 2023, not starting April 2023.
And that's that road, right? That's like running kind of behind where they kind of went and buried the ditch,
Yeah.
right? And they kind of built it up towards
It's
Highway
built
6.
up to the Highway
Yeah,
6.
okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
One extension.
Someone can make a motion to approve the amendment to the development agreement, then we'll separately consider the amendment to the subdivision improvement agreement.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the amendment to Development Agreement Lot 2, Village of Painted Pastures Site Plan.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Trustee Brittenall to approve the amendment to Development Agreement Lot 2, Village of Painted Pastures Site Plan, seconded by Trustee Clausen. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next item up is the amendment to the subdivision improvement agreement, the Village of Painted Pastures, and I'll turn this back over to Attorney Sawyer.
So same issue, different agreement. The extension they're requesting here relates to the construction of the right-in, right-out, which is at the eastern end of the village area, and it is where the road that was the subject of the last agreement will connect to.
Yeah.
And they are asking for an extension to complete this improvement to May 2023. Again, staff, we've talked with Derek. Internally, we don't have a problem with this.
Okay.
So they want to pave to the right in, right out in April, and then in March, and then do the turn lane in April?
I mean, I'm not, well, the road crossing the edge of Lot 2 and going through Lot 3?
Yes.
Yeah, is going to be gravel. And the reason is they haven't obtained a permanent site plan for what they want to do on Lot 3, so they don't want to put pavement in.
Yeah.
So that road is going to be gravel, and I guess they assume they can do that in April, whereas the completion to the permanent improvements at Highway 6 will, I guess, be April and May.
Same thing. I'll be good with one extension.
Me too.
Yes.
So if there's no questions, take a motion to approve the amendment to the subdivision improvement agreement.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to approve amendment to subdivision improvements agreement to the village at Painted Pastures.
I'll second.
All right. Motion by trustee Seifert to approve the amendment to the subdivision improvement agreement, the village at Painted Pastures, second by trustee Clausen. All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All's opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, next up is the first reading of ordinance number 15, series 2022, an ordinance of the town of Silt, Colorado, amending chapter 13.06 of the town code pertaining to the unlawful discharge of certain regulated materials in the town and to require the installation and inspection of backflow preventer devices. I will turn this over to Attorney Sawyer.
Thank you. So as the board will remember, a number of months ago, we had some kind of questions and an issue related to enforcement of the town's backflow prevention requirements. So with the town's water system, even though the town in many parts of its jurisdiction maintains a two-pipe system with raw water irrigation for outdoor use and potable water for indoor use, there are areas of the town and certain businesses that have water that either goes to outdoor irrigation or that is used in a business process where if that water somehow were reintroduced into the pipes of our potable water system could create a public health problem. And so the state has a law that requires that any time that there is a potential of contamination at a particular user, that user maintain a backflow prevention device. And the town first enacted this current code in 1991, so 30 plus years ago. A lot has happened with backflow prevention in those 30 years. New regulations at the state level have been passed, new devices have been implemented, new definitions as to how to talk about backflow prevention have kind of come into term. The state maintains a model backflow prevention ordinance or law that it recommends that municipalities adopt from time to time. So when we had this issue over the summer, we agreed to go and take a look at the state of the town's existing code. It was 30 years old and needed to be updated. So we have taken the model ordinance that the state provides. It's also been adopted by a number of your neighboring communities in the last few years. We have applied it to the town of Silt. I think what's important to know is that, again, backflow prevention is required at any time where water usage could result in contamination. And that under the program that the town can require inspection on a periodic basis. And Trey can jump in when I say something incorrect here, but generally the town's inspection priorities relate to commercial users that have I think a greater ability to introduce contaminants into the town's water system. That being said, the town does have the ability to require inspection of parties who use town domestic water for irrigation of their properties. And believe it or not, there is actually a state certified program where you can go and become a certified backflow preventer inspector. And so this updated code adopts that certification standard as the parties who are allowed to undertake certifications and provide information to the town of Silt. We've also included or updated the remedies section for what happens when someone doesn't comply. I think that happens very, very infrequently. But if you ended up with a situation where somebody decided they, just weren't going to comply with either the inspection requirement or even worse, a faulty backflow preventer or no backflow preventer at all, the town has the ability to shut their water off to prevent contamination of the rest of the system. Obviously, that would normally happen after giving numerous notices and requests to work with the town to come into compliance. But in the event of a situation where Trey and the water department determined that a particular user posed a real health and safety risk, we could do that immediately. Trey, do you have comments about that?
It's a yearly test requirement. That's actually in part of the state regulation. So every place that we've had to have a backflow put in requires a yearly testing. And we have that in May 1st is when we're trying to get all the tests done, because after May 1st, if the tests aren't in, they have 60 days after that to come into compliance. And then we can go to them with letters saying, you need to come into compliance within this amount of time, or we're going to shut your water off. So that's what we're kind of looking at. It's a new, not that it's a new program, but we're catching up with the program. And not only is it commercial, like he said, it's irrigation. And if you read the state regulations, any place that has an ADU and that becomes a multi-family dwelling, they're supposed to have backflows as well. So we're looking at everything and basically trying to play catch up to make sure everything that is required in this regulation have backflows that's got them.
How are you on compliance? I mean, with the customers?
So far, with everyone we reached out to this year, I think Victor just told me the other day, I think we sent out like 140 letters or better, and I think we only have like 50 that we were still waiting on, if that.
That's not bad.
I mean, most people have come into compliance. We've got a few that I think could be problems. They've stated, no, we're not doing it. You can't make us do it.
Yes, we can.
Well, yeah, and that's another reason for one of these to give a little more stability to being able to coax them into compliance.
Yeah.
The town's policy has always been one of working with its citizens to follow the law. But occasionally you have someone that no matter how hard you try, they just dig in their heels, and the town's got to have the ability to protect the water system. So.
What's a really simple way, so in the commercial setting, how are some of the ways that the potable water gets contaminated if there's not a backflow preventer installed? What happens?
If there's not a backflow installed?
How does, what I'm saying is how,
maybe
I don't always understand the flow of water, so how does it get contaminated?
Well, just an example, let's say like at the fire department, if we didn't have one, and we use the water, if we shut the water off and it's siphoned, it could actually, let's say it could siphon back through, so the water out of the water truck could actually siphon back into the water line itself, if it got, could siphon back down.
Oh, okay.
So that prevents that
Gotcha.
from happening.
Yeah. Or an easier one to think of is picture a dog turd on a sprinkler, and somehow you have suction.
I understand it on the sprinklers.
That's it right there.
I understand it on the sprinkler system. If you're using potable water to water your grass, I mean more on like the commercial side of people using
that would be
it.
a commercial.
You have
Or-
a commercial sink with a dishwasher spray.
Okay.
So you have a bay full of bleach to bleach the dishes.
Yep.
You put that wand in.
Yep.
And there's a suction backwards in the line for some reason. It sucks that bleach water
Oh, okay.
back into the main
And that
water
can go
line. And then
into-
it goes to the neighbor's house.
Pulls back in the line.
Yeah.
Can't that happen in a house? Can't that happen in my? I don't think I have a backflow preventer in my house.
It could happen in your house.
It could happen anywhere.
So how come they're not? I don't think they could be everywhere.
Well, not yet.
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
Some
Hearing
jurisdictions have.
the chatter through the state and everything, it quite possibly could become
Yeah, okay.
every water user will have to have a backflow.
Seems
It's not there yet. It's just commercial, multifamily,
Got it.
and those who irrigate with potable water.
Okay, thanks.
But it could be, in the next 3 to 5 years, it could be everybody's got to have one.
Makes sense.
Those are all really great examples, by the way. Nice.
This board has a lot of specialty in water systems and pipes.
Yeah, right. Apparently, huh?
Lost total
Okay.
feed of you guys.
Yeah, we froze up.
So I would, if there are questions, if there's any language you would like some clarification on, I'm happy to provide that. I would note I'm not going to be present at your second November meeting, taking a little time off over Thanksgiving. So if you had a thought or a question between now and the next meeting, just send me an email and we'll get that answered.
Okay.
So how do we, I guess on a town side, how do we maintain the list? And are we gonna send out reminder letters yearly?
Yes. Victor, who works at the water wastewater plant, he is the gentleman that is in charge of this program. And he has a list of everybody that we sent letters to, a list of all commercial properties in town that need it, as well as the ones that irrigate with potable water. And the next one that we need to start on is the multifamily. Clarification on the multifamily. Townhomes are considered multifamily, but the majority of the townhomes we have, there is one service going to each individual townhome, even though it's in a triplex. The ones that need the prevention is the one that has one feed, but it's feeding like 2 apartments or somebody's house in an ADU. That's the requirement for backflows on that. But Victor has all of that, and Victor's running the program.
Okay. All right. This is a public hearing. Any further discussion by the board?
I have nothing.
Okay. The time is 8:10 PM, and I will open up the public hearing for ordinance number 15, series 2022. Do we have a feedback yet on the internet?
We're getting Zoom back on. So we can check on that public stuff.
Okay. All right. Okay, I'll just, since Sheila's here with us, do we have any phone calls or emails in regards to this agenda item?
No one today.
Okay. Then Amy, do we have any raised hands?
We do not have any raised hands.
Okay. Do we have anybody that's just joining back with us that was previously here but left?
It looks like just Trey. No one else has come back.
Okay. All right. This is only the first reading, so if public does have comments, we will have a second reading on this. So the time is 8:11 PM, and I will close the public hearing, open up to further discussion by the board or a motion.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 15, series 2022, an ordinance of the town of Silt, Colorado, amending chapter 13.06 of the town code pertaining to the unlawful discharge of certain regulated materials in the town and to require the installation and inspection of backflow prevention devices.
Second.
All right. Motion by trustee Clausen to approve ordinance number 15, series 2022, the first reading, seconded by trustee Seifert. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next up is administrator and staff reports. Any highlights?
Couple quick highlights. Our Main Street trick or treat was a great success. One thing I didn't mention in my report was that we're looking for volunteers to help decorate this week for the holidays. For next week, we have our tree lighting on Tuesday night. And I think that's it. Oh, our charter amendment election passed as well, so all is good.
All is good.
And are you having fireworks at the tree lighting?
We're negotiating with a guy to light the fuses and bring the fireworks. He wants to charge more because it's short notice than what we have in the budget, so we're chatting.
Doing
with him
something
about
else
it.
that day that he's gonna make money?
Probably not too many people looking for fireworks on a Tuesday tree lighting.
That's what I said. I don't care whether you call the night before or what.
What?
So,
So when are we looking
Sam will
for
light the fireworks if he wants to supply it.
it would be fun, wouldn't it?
the help to decorate the trees is when?
Do you have a date when we've asked them to come out, or maybe?
Some start putting lights up today.
Yeah, we're putting lights up now.
Okay. So
Our
Actually-
volunteers do the trunks.
Yeah,
okay.
We get them to come out for that.
so they don't have to get up high, but it'll be this week because we're hoping to have the lights done by Friday so we can test them
Okay.
to make sure they're ready for next Tuesday.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay. Any updates from that you?
I was just going to mention the panoramic, and then the gentleman came in. We have to look more into that. And I know one of the questions, they're hauling approximately 50,000 gallons a month out of bulk water. Somebody had asked that question.
A month?
Because,
They're only doing 50,000 gallons a month?
well, the wells are producing some.
Some, okay.
So somebody had asked that earlier, but like Michael said, we've got to look into it more because we stopped because their engineer said just hold up. They don't know what they're going to do or if they're going to have the funding. So we'll have to look back into it now that they want to proceed.
All right. Okay. Next up, I guess, is updates from the board and board comments. So, Trustee Hanrahan?
Just good news on the number of people who participated in the election. I think that's great. 54%. We'll always wish it was higher, but certainly going in the right direction. Democracy works when you show up. That's it for me.
Okay.
I don't have anything.
Trustee Britnell?
I helped pass out some candy with Jerry and his grandson at the Halloween trick or treat. It was neat to see all the kids out. Events like that are great in a small town like this.
Okay. Trustee Clausen?
I don't have anything tonight.
Yeah, with just Trustee Britnell, we had a record amount of kids on Halloween. I couldn't believe last year, you and I, we had about over 2.5 buckets left. We were done 20 minutes before, we ran out 20 minutes before the time was over. It was packed quarter before it even started. We had just a record amount of kids this year. It was just astronomical, so that was good to see.
Nice.
Sweet. Hey, I wanted to just bring up a quick concern that may not be a concern, but it regards that hill above the Stony Ridge sign that is eroding away. Remember you guys took that big rock out of there?
Yes.
I'm still concerned about that hill. Every day, that hill drops baseball-sized rocks on the walking path right there. And there's kids that come down that hill on scooters, bikes, including my kids. I can't believe it hasn't hit a car yet, but that hill is definitely eroding away. And I just think that we should really be ahead of that before it gets really bad. But I just think for the overall safety of people that use that walking path, we should maybe try to figure out what we can do there. So that's my comment.
Okay. With all the issues we have at 401 Main, can we send Mr. Colby a letter?
Yes.
Letting
Mr.
him-
Colby is well aware
He is, I know he's
of
well.
the requirements
Yes.
for,
Yes. I just would like to make him aware again.
Remind him.
Okay.
Can you refresh my memory?
So, Mr. Colby owns the Big Green
Right.
building.
Okay.
He has been an issue in this town for several years. So I think
For
a
sure.
reminder of, we can't force him, But it would be nice of him to let his tenants know that they need to apply for business licenses and that certain businesses may require a special use permit. Because the next board or us at a future date might tell someone that wants a special use permit, tough luck.
And they may have been operating there for years, and, because like, some of these were there for years before we realized it was an issue.
Ultimately, the property owner is responsible for zoning compliance. It's not just the business. We'll make
Should've
that,
brought
we'll
him
make
in-
that point
Bring
clear.
him into court next time?
We'll make that point
Let
clear.
him share the cost.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, I am curious about that then. So like, if that ultimate responsibility does land on the property owner, like how does that factor in with these two special use permits that we accepted or approved? You know, but they're paying fines, et cetera, et cetera. It's costing them money.
I would assume
Is
that'd
that
be
is
a-
that up to that business owner then to maybe try to get
Yeah,
damages
for-
recovered
yeah.
from? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, for
Okay.
him to go back to the owner.
Yeah.
Yeah,
gotcha.
force the owner to probably say, then leave.
So probably what would happen.
Very
But
good.
we will get a letter out.
Talk to him.
Gotcha.
Okay. Cool. All right, next up then is a water plant update.
Well, we've talked a little bit about the fact that we need a new water plant, and that we have a company, an engineering firm that's willing to design that firm or that plant, and you have a contract to consider to have that done, and you have that in your packet, actually. You go to that, back to that tab, and we can look at the time schedule, if you like. And we can also look at the tasks that we didn't get to, we didn't talk about during the work session. But you can see task 4 through 7 is all about the different phases of the design.
Starts on page 271.
And on page 5 is the preliminary project schedule, starting in, well, as soon as we sign a contract with them, they would have their project kickoff. And we would have the 15% design along with the application to CDOT, or I'm sorry, CDOT, to state revolving fund in January 17th of '23. And I see that that date is not actually on here, but that's what we've discussed, so. We can make that happen. What questions do you have about that project schedule or the contract in general?
I mean, the 1.8's pretty well fixed, correct? I mean, we can't really see a increase in the fees they.
Well, there are some services not included, and you'll see those at the bottom of page 5, going on to page 6. So I assume if there were, if there were things that needed to happen, for example, the third bullet point is if the EA services required additional
Consulting.
through Fish and Wildlife or somebody, there might be some charges there.
And then they get a percent of design. Is that how that works? How they get paid?
Yes,
Okay.
they would bill us as
Is
they
there
go.
some sort of so our design at Valley one time, they designed it for like, say, 30 million or whatever, and then costs of material went up, and it cost like 40 million, and they wanted a percent of that extra 10, even though they had designed it already and it was already done. They wanted more money. Is there wording to say the cost of design?
That would be I'm not sure, I don't know the answer to that. Michael, do you know the answer to that?
I don't.
They shouldn't be able to. I mean, it's laid out in their tasks.
They're-
If they get
Yeah,
to
the engineering fee is the
100%
project fee.
design,
Yeah, the project fee phase breaks it out. It doesn't, it's not based on how much it costs, the design cost, it's how much the percentage of the design process, I guess, is what it looks like to me at least. But I'm not a water expert.
So I'm really sorry that I missed like the beginning of the meeting when we talked about this stuff. So maybe if you guys, just some quick background information. So I understand this is about $30 million, and I understand we're talking about a lot of engineering. Part of the problem that we have right now is whenever we chose the engineer or decided to go with the plant that's there, it was outdated before it was ever built. So I'm trying to read through this, and I should have before, and I didn't, I'm sorry, but have we determined what type of plant is, or does that still need to be engineered, and we approve that, and then it gets built?
we have an idea of what the plant's going to look like.
Right.
It is going to be, one of the brand names is called AccuFlow, but it's a pre-treatment sedimentation. It'll go through that process, and then it will get hyper sodium chlorite put into it, and then that will be sent through a mixed media filter, which is a bunch of different sands, gravels. There will be green sand in there, and what it is the putting the chlorine in at that point will help precipitate the iron and manganese out of the system.
Okay.
It'll go through that filtration through the mixed media filter.
Okay.
It will come out and go through a UV chamber, which will kill all the bad stuff in there. And then it will get chlorinated and go through the contact chamber, which will kill the viruses and things of that nature, and then out to the distribution system.
So we're no longer considering the settling pond across the river that's over at the, right? So
Right.
that's been ruled
Because
out.
we looked at that, and we would still need a type of pre-filtration before it.
Okay.
So it was, do we spend the money to put the infrastructure under the river?
Right.
Just to build a pre-treatment system anyway?
Okay.
What size plant was that gonna be?
2 million gallons a day is what we're currently looking at the design of.
In our,
What's the current plant do?
600,000 gallons a day.
well, what's the expected lifespan of this particular new plant, or what's been discussed with the engineers as far as what the expectation is for the lifespan of the plant? Because it would be really nice to pay it off before we have to build
Yes,
another
and
one.
that,
Isn't
and,
80% of expected growth?
huh?
Isn't 80% of the expected growth?
Yes. And also, it will be built in such a way that adding on to it will be more feasible and easy.
Well, I understand that, but I don't want
but-
to have to do that in 15
Except for,
years.
yeah, in 15 years.
Or
and
20
the-
years.
And
Exactly.
they don't make the same product anymore, so it's
Yeah.
not really
I think-
feasible to add on. I mean,
Well,
that's,
with this, the pre-filtration, the flock, the settling, and sand filters have been around forever and they're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So this isn't going to be like a technology that's going to go away. It's pretty, I mean, in the grand schemes of things, it's really basic. It's simple. You put the water in, you add stuff to it, the heavy stuff falls to the bottom, and then you send it through the mixed media, and it takes out the small stuff, and then you continue on. So, but no, we have discussed that. The life expectancy, I don't have an exact date on it, but I am with you guys. I don't want a plant that we're having to rebuild that we haven't paid off yet.
Right.
So have
And
they,
that is-
the only thing I can think of is the conditions of the water source. Have they factored all like the worst case scenario,
Yes.
and they're not gonna have to add on or build another clarifier?
so that's a point that I have in here, is that the statement is that they'll have a new ballast coagulation flocculation sediment system with a capacity of 2 million gallons designed to accommodate the expected wide range in water turbidity from the Colorado River.
Yes.
I would like to see what our maximum is and add 30, 40%, whatever it needs to be, and say this plant will still operate at this level. Not, we expect it here and we got to here, so we're screwed. I want to know what that overage is that we're potentially looking at, because it seems like our water is dirtier and dirtier and dirtier every year, so. The expected wide range, that's a pretty broad statement. That's on page 1 of the project understanding. I would like to see an actual number in there of what.
And I know we've talked about that, but off the top of my head, I can't remember it.
So that plant should actually easily accommodate the quality of the wells.
Yes, easily accommodate the wells, even though you have to remember the wells do not produce enough water for us. So it's always going to be, we can use the wells, but we are going to have to supplement it with river water because the wells just don't produce enough for us to keep up.
Removing magnesium and.
Yeah, the green, the pre-chlorination before it hits the mixed media with the green sand, that's where the iron and manganese is going to be precipitated out.
And then why on a 25 or $30 million project are we going to reuse an existing chlorine disinfector? It's just a modification of existing chlorine disinfection system to meet the regulatory.
Yes, that's the chlorine we're using now, but that's more the contact chamber. And the reason we're doing that is I just went blank on the capacity of our contact chamber, but that is nothing but an underground storage tank with concrete baffles in it. That the water and the chlorine goes in on this side, it works through the baffles because you have to have a certain amount of contact time of the chlorine in the water before it goes to the distribution system. Reusing that unit because it's in great shape, it's all concrete, and you know the price of concrete at the moment. And that's why we were reusing that. Because that alone could easily add $500,000 to the project. Or more. But that's what we're looking at is using our because our contact is sized big enough to handle a 2 MGD plant, they said. And I will confirm that.
Yeah, and can you ask them what like the expected life expectancy is of a plant like this?
Yeah.
You know.
They're gonna tell you what SGM told the town in 1999.
Yeah.
Which is what?
It'll get you all the way through the next set of growth.
Well, so in 1999, then we didn't ask enough questions.
No.
And we just rolled with it. So we should definitely not do that this time.
Right.
And, you know, luckily you work in that water industry. I mean, you work in water, so.
It's a different side of the water.
I know,
Source
but.
of water experts here.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you think $30 million, like, this thing's gotta last 30 years or longer.
Well, it needs to last longer, and then also your maintenance and upkeep is going to be a huge factor in that as well.
Yeah, good call on that, right? Okay.
So having the right people in there working on it will help.
I am curious, Jeff and Mike, I don't know if you saw it. I was just CC'd on it, but that email that came a number of weeks ago from Cooper, who is a wastewater engineer in the Valley, kind of reaching out to the town staff about an opportunity to review what we have, what's going on, engineering, to see if they could come up. Are we past that point? Is that an option? I know we didn't send this out for like an RFP for these guys. I know we
RFQ.
chose, what's that?
Sorry, with the state, we cannot send out RFPs. We got to send out RFQs. Money is not a factor when we pick an engineering.
okay.
We're allowed to choose, you have money as a part of our deciding factor.
And the reason we didn't do that, Kyle, is Jeff and I's talked about this numerous times, is we started this process. This process should have probably been started a year ago, if not longer.
Yeah.
We started down one road because we were told that we could apply in June. the loan forgiveness would be there, things would be ready, and we had that time, so we was moving at that pace
Okay.
where we could do an RFQ. And then it wasn't, a couple weeks later, Jeff, that we met with the state again and they said, we don't know if there'll be any money there in June. You better get there in January. And here we are.
Got it.
So we're kind of on a time crunch.
Well, and this
I get
money's
it.
new too.
What's that?
The money is new, this loan forgiveness. I think there's always a certain amount of loan forgiveness, but because of the bill, the bipartisan infrastructure law.
So I don't mean to cut
there's
you
more.
off, but I there's a possibility I missed this part. So I'm not 100% sure what you're talking about as it relates to a loan forgiveness right now. So I
Okay,
apologize
so
if I did. but-
if we get our application in on January 17th,
Okay.
we'll be considered for loan forgiveness from the state revolving fund,
Okay.
which is the state outfit that's going to give us money to build a new plant.
Okay.
In fact, as I understand it, they'll give us virtually all the money, $28 million, whatever it is.
Okay.
Some of it will be, all of that is in the form of a lower interest loan.
Okay.
I mean, we'll have to shop it around to make sure that it's as low as what we could get from, the bank, but
Okay.
we can virtually guarantee it's going to be the lowest interest loan we can get. Because of the bipartisan infrastructure bill, there's money available for loan forgiveness.
Okay.
And that has changed significantly over the last few months when we were first told that we were probably going to be eligible for all of it. And then it reduced to 7 to 9, and now it's down to 5 to 7. It may reduce again. I don't know. It's really a function of how many water operations plants apply for these funds.
Got it.
So the sooner we apply, supposedly, the more money we can get for forgiveness.
Okay.
So that's why there's a rush on this. And had we applied a year and a half ago, we wouldn't be talking about this loan forgiveness. We might not be getting this much. I don't know.
Got
And
it.
how do you weigh that against, rushing the process a little bit? I don't really know. We could just say, and the other thing I point out in my memo is that there's going to be 5 different tranches. Every year for the next 5 years, they're going to be putting money in. I don't know that anybody knows how much money will be put in each time. There may be more, there may be less. We might be able to be eligible later on for more. Remember that we're going to have to do this again with wastewater. And we are dreading that conversation. But let's get one thing at a time done. And I think it's important for us to get this going. And if we can get this started, are we in the best possible position to negotiate with engineering firms? No, we're not. And I think everybody understands that. I don't know that we would be in a better position in June or for the June application. So there's a January application, then there's a June application, which is a different, my understanding, there's a different source of funds. They anticipate that all of the bill funds will be allocated. There may be some other funds then that might be used for this loan forgiveness, but it's hard to know how much
Yep.
or whether we would be in the loop for those.
Okay.
So we're not in a great spot, for sure. And we've talked this out with, amongst ourselves, if June 17th comes along, Dewberry isn't able to perform and get the application in
January
time.
17th,
What did I say?
June.
January 17th, and we decide to cancel the contract on the 30 days notice, where are we then? So now it's 1st of February. We haven't, well, I guess what we would do then is we would issue an RFQ. We'd look at other firms. We'd look at other proposals. And we could make a decision to go with a different firm for a June application.
Right. So we're considering this $28 million project on the heels of getting the majority of that funded through this program, is basically what I'm hearing.
Right.
Right? Okay, so if we agree to the contract, we make our application to get assistance, and we don't get assistance, I can't imagine we would know that pretty quickly, though, right?
We've met with, right.
But we
Well,
would
we've
know
met
that
with the
quickly?
state, and they're very confident that we are going to be eligible for the cap, which is $5 million.
Okay.
And then they have a disadvantaged communities increase up to 2 million, which they think that we're eligible for.
Okay.
We haven't heard the final word from DOLA, and they're the ones that are doing that evaluation.
Okay.
So the second part of your question was?
Well, I think that was kind of it. So if we agree to the contract and we have a contract with Dewberry to do this project, and then we don't get any funding, or we then, we're kind of either looking how we're gonna pay $28 million.
Well, we're gonna get funding, we're gonna get a loan. So it's the loan forgiveness that's most, and then we're also gonna do as much as we can within the rules to get whatever grants we can get.
Yeah.
But, I mean, they're not gonna be the kind of, big money, like,
We're not
like
getting a grant
$5
to pay
million
for it all.
bucks. Sorry?
We're not getting a grant to pay for it all.
There's
No.
no $20 million grant?
No. And Jim Mann, as you know, is doing the work right now on the finance side to try to understand, the impact on water rates and so forth. So
Yeah,
we'll
there's
know
a
about
there's
that.
there's a really fine line there between new water plant, good clean water, and those water rates. I mean, truly, because people complain all the time about high water rates, but they just take for granted the fact that it's clean water, and they don't even take into consideration there's a brand new $30 million plant. So that's a heavy balance that we would have. Granted, we need the water, but I don't know that we could sit here and raise the average water bill on our residents by 50 or 75 bucks a month to pay for it. So that needs to be a heavy consideration for sure. At least it is for me.
You are going to sign, for any bonded indebtedness, you are going to have to sign a rate covenant that says you will raise the rates to whatever is required to repay the debt.
And I wouldn't be thinking in terms of 50 to 75. I think it's gonna be more than that.
Probably more.
Yeah.
Now, the Water Quality Control
know, man.
Division
I know.
is part of the review process. They'll look
Yeah.
at all the financials as well. And they'll render opinions and, because they're, in the end, they're the ones loaning the money.
Right.
No, the good news is with the increased capacity, we can give water to more people, which will have more people paying the rates, which will pay it off, and maybe we can drop them a little bit at some point.
No, because then right on the heels of that, we're gonna be talking about how to pay for a $50 million wastewater plant.
Wastewater plant and maintaining.
But that's the wastewater fee, not the
A
water
perfectly
fee.
good operated wastewater plant.
Separate
Like, you
Yeah.
have to bill just for government.
separate
Yeah.
enterprise.
It's a really interesting conversation to figure out how to put a $30 million bill on the back of 3,500 people.
At least we're not in Minturn situation.
Yeah.
We're 700 people.
I don't know, man. Like, that's a huge problem.
That
But
should have been started 15, 20 years ago, previous boards, but it just kind of let, now we're the board that's got to deal with it, basically.
well, yep.
Like, we have to have a new water plant.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not saying we don't.
So how do you, it has to
I don't know,
be
man.
paid
You
for.
raise water bills by $150 a month. People move. They'll leave.
Potentially.
Yeah.
And someone else will hopefully buy their house.
Probably.
About spending
Yeah,
the next
probably.
$150
They're not going to be
a month.
abandoned, in other words. They're going to
yeah.
be sold to party B, C, D.
Yeah, I do always remember Jeff's comment. You said something along the lines, well, somebody decided to build a town right here,
Yeah.
kind of deal, I suppose, but,
We all
Blame
decided to live
them.
in this town, so.
well, anyhow.
Well,
And there was a vote of confidence for Drewberry on our last meeting. I think, Jeff, are you telling us that all the projects they've done or that they're associated with?
I know they've worked recently with Superior and Evans in the Front Range, both of them in with water projects, and then Durango, I think I think they did a wastewater project.
Did a wastewater in Durango, and they are involved in the wastewater in gypsum.
Right.
I mean, the other option is to design a plant that does 1.5 million gallons, and in 20 years, we're
Having to add to it,
out
yeah.
again.
The incremental cost savings are not
Gonna be,
great.
No.
No, I know it's needed.
yeah.
I'm worried about paying for it.
I just want to make sure when we go to designing the building, it's a clear span metal structure with no fancy pillars and stone veneer and, I mean.
It doesn't need to be pretty, it needs to make good water.
Every school you see spends an extra $1 million putting a pretty entrance on the building.
Right.
We'll let the engineers design it instead of the architects. That should be.
Yes, I mean, we want an insulated steel building that will maintain 70 degrees in the wintertime, so our employees are happy.
Don't freeze pipe.
Yeah. We don't have the luxury of making it pretty.
Kyle, is you thinking that if we went through the process of having the second party review the bid, that there'd be cost savings there?
I don't know. That's the problem, is I don't know. I don't know that any of us know, really. I remember Sam's comment a while ago, like, they'll engineer it forever, essentially, right? They'll just keep
Whatever the
adding
max
up.
price is, we can get there.
So I don't know anything about water plants. I don't know if it's over-engineered. I don't know if it's under-engineered. I don't know if 28 million is a good deal. Like, everybody says, well, hey, this town paid this town paid that, and, you know, those were towns of 50,000 people. It's 3,000 people here.
Well, to give you a point of reference, the other municipality that I represent, whose water situation has its own unique complications, and they have a different engineering firm designing a filter water treatment plant for them. And it's a 0.8 million gallon a day plant, and the numbers are coming in at 25 to 30 million. So that's where these things are at.
Right. And Snowmass went out to bid to 5-6 engineering firms, and we took the lowest one. And then after we signed the contract, they came back. Oh, we were mistaken. It's going to be this, and they ended up being higher than all the other. So I mean, it's just a game.
I guess where I'm going with it is clearly it's a really, really important decision to be made. And I certainly just don't want to be responsible for making a poor decision because I'm not fully educated. And part of that is my fault. I wasn't here earlier today in some of these other meetings with this. So that's maybe why I'm bringing up some of these concerns and just thoughts that I'm thinking about, you know, as it relates to this thing. So, you know.
The process that we're going to use, not that it's starting right now, but if you look at that in February, we're going to bring on a CMAR, and I forget what that acronym stands for right now, but basically what that is at that point, we're going to have the construction company on board that is going to build this plant, and they will work simultaneously with the engineer and how they're designing it to offer ideas like, hey, you know, if you do it this way, you're going to save this much money.
Yeah.
And also to look at what they need and say, we need to order that now because it might not be there then, or the rates on that are going up to buy that. So that should help us control costs a little bit.
Gotcha. Nope,
And
that's good to know.
then it comes down to like Jeff and I and Tony staying on top of it to make sure they're not getting wild with design and, you know, frivolous things like veneer walls and all of that stuff.
So what finally got us to this point? Because I feel like I've been beating this drum ever since we decided that we would refinance our current bond to free up that $600,000, and that was years ago. You know, I mean, is it normal that to get to this process takes 2.5 years?
I think it took 2.5 years because we were trying to make what we had work. And we got
I'm trying to see where it was.
we got to the point where
We kept looking at. We spent 2.5 years looking at the status and seeing what we had versus just trying to get something new.
That's my
That was
question.
drug out. I really do. I felt that could have been done in 6 months.
And that was
all the
Tony
testing.
Zancanella, right?
Mhm.
I don't know where Dewberry fell into that. I think they were kind of towards the end, so I don't know if I would put the,
yeah, they came in at the end. They
Right.
came in after we decided we needed a new plant.
right. I mean, could Tony have gotten us this information or realized that he needed, like, to collaborate with an outside firm a whole lot sooner than he did, or was it him
Well,
sort of
if we
dragging
back
it out?
up a little bit, let's back up just a little bit. We lost our virtually our whole staff over there in the middle of the year in 2019.
29, yeah, it was 2019.
When did our crews switch?
Yes, 2019.
So it took a while for Tony. Tony was not our ORC, but he was our engineering consultant.
Right.
But he was pretty much shut out of the plant. I mean, those guys didn't want him anywhere near the plant. And anytime he would go to work there, there wasn't a lot of cooperation.
This is when was this?
Pre-2019.
With the old regime over there.
Like 2018, 2017.
And I certainly didn't really know that. I mean, nobody was communicating that to me. So when our new guys went in there, they brought Tony in. Tony had free hand. He asked questions like, "What's the performance of the plant today?" Well, certain meters. I mean, Trey could go into our operators could come over and go into great detail about all the different things that weren't working, and we were reporting to you over that time the things that we were replacing and fixing and reanimating, from fire extinguishers to meters on production water. There were a lot of things we just didn't know. We didn't know how it was. I mean, Dewberry has now, I think, told us that each skid is operating and producing way less than what we were told they were designed to produce. And of course, mudslides and the backwash capacity, I mean, all those things, play into that. And I can't even get into great detail. But I think we've been moving toward this as quickly as we could have. I think there were some times we probably could have gone faster, but we didn't know it, and hindsight's wonderful, but it's not, it really doesn't help us today to get into the position we need to be to get the grant funding that we can get to kind of move things forward. I don't think there's anything we could have done earlier to get us to where we are gonna be. In other words, the plant that Dewberry will design would not have been designed without them. I mean,
Without
maybe
who?
without Dewberry.
Oh, no, I'm
So-
good with Dewberry. I think I'm more upset with Zancanella and how that whole process went. And now we're looking at a $28 million project and just plopping it in his lap when he wouldn't even give the town of Silt the time of day to get our engineering done, to figure this out, at least in my opinion.
Well, I don't
Every
think
time
he
I asked
had-
about
he-
it, needs more data. Needs more
I don't
data.
think he had the he certainly didn't have the capacity to do what Dewberry will do. And
He does not design water treatment.
And he couldn't have done the analysis.
He wasn't supposed to design our water plant. He was supposed to collect the data and give us his opinion on what we needed.
he was hired after you lost your water treatment plant and did not have a certified operator to run your plant. And he stepped in an emergency and took it over.
As the ORC.
So he was ORC.
Yeah, because the state
He
didn't
is
for
the
not
ORC.
having an
I know,
operator.
but he became ORC, but his intent was not to diagnose the situation of the plant. Until later on.
I think that evolved over time, but
Right.
his initial involvement
Was just
in
keeping
the
us-
plan
keeping us having
was
water.
to allow you to continue to provide water to the town.
Right.
You didn't have a certified operator because yours left without giving any notice.
Right. So his whole time there wasn't to
Yeah, he wasn't there
diagnose the
to.
whole time.
He's
to
probably initially
engineer-
they're just
to work toward-
triaging and just
Yeah, he was there
keeping
to.
it open and
He was
keeping
there
it
to
running.
work the plant,
Yeah,
not to repair the plant.
and that happened later. That's why it seems like
I
it was
didn't,
longer.
I was never under the impression that he was there to repair it either.
Well,
Zancanello was the water
Diagnose it.
engineer assigned with giving us information as to where our water plant was and if we could expand it or if we needed to replace it. And it seemed like for 2 years, we would ask where we're at with that. And it's, he needs more data. This is broken. He needs more data.
Well, it
Got it.
wasn't quite that long, but he was, at the same time he was running the plant to make sure that we could continue to make water for our folks. He was trying to figure out what the next step would be, for sure. And you'll remember, he did produce a graphic, probably sometime in '21, that I think is very close to what, in terms of just the processes, not the actual equipment, that Dewberry has now landed on. So, I mean, he wasn't that far off.
All right.
I think he did fine.
Is part
I-
of your concern, Kyle, not repeating whatever missteps got us to this short timeline and being forced into one vendor selection? Like,
No.
I'm inferring it, but is that part of your concern? Like, how do we stop ourselves from making the same potential mistake that power boards made, et cetera, et cetera? Is it preventative?
Sort of. So just, if you can kind of get where my frustration's lying, I just feel like as I would ask for updates as it related to that water plant when we knew that we were in trouble, we were always waiting for Zancanello to give us more information. We're always waiting, right? And now we're coming up to a deadline and we're trying to get this project in, and then we're going to reward him with this work when I just feel like there wasn't a sense of urgency.
It's not Zancanello.
He's not getting the
he
work.
doesn't get anything out of this.
Drewberry.
None.
No.
He's still getting paid as our ORC, but he's not getting
Yeah,
paid
he's
to
not.
design the
That's what I
plan.
Well, I thought he was
I was
going to work
asking
in
if it was
collaboration
for
with
parties
Dewberry.
No, he
No,
doesn't have
he's
anything to do
not.
with. He's
Doing none of the engineering work
No.
up front. Okay.
No, Dewberry has her whole team.
They have a team that does all that, yeah.
Yeah, it is frustrating. We're just like picking on the first engineer, not getting ideas.
Yeah.
I understand the urgency
Last minute, but
needed.
and to Tony's defense too, I mean he had a giant challenge ahead of him in the condition that plant was in, and like we don't even know how much water we're losing
Right.
through the system, to actually do accurate calculations
Yeah.
too. But
Because of the meters and everything.
yeah,
Yeah. And it was 2019 when they all left. And we had 2 operators into 2020. And then we hired the third one. And then it was late 2020, early 21 when we finally got the 4th one in there.
Gotcha. And I apologize. I thought I must have misread that, because when I read that, I thought I saw Zancanello was going to be working with Dewberry on the project for the whole thing. So,
Yeah.
as ORC.
Yeah, he'll
Yeah,
still be the
yeah.
ORC, but not.
okay.
I mean, in that
Yeah, he's
capacity,
not-
when if they need data from him, he'll supply it. But he's not getting paid to do this
All right.
project. Yeah. Yeah, it seems like the timeline seems like it's longer than it's really been. Zancanello was beginning of 21.
And we're coming
So-
up on the beginning of 23, so that's
23,
almost
so-
2 years.
So 2 years, but he came in as an ORC, and then he came to us with, well, we have these problems. Okay, what do we need to do to fix it? We try this, we try that. And then at some point, I mean, it's like the old car. At what point
Yeah,
do you quit
right.
fixing it and go towards just buying a new one?
I gotcha. All right.
Gotta move forward.
Yeah, and
At what point do
unfortunately,
we-
we're here because the current plant was a poor decision, you know, but
Oh, well,
we can't change that
can't
now.
go backwards, we gotta move
Yeah,
forward.
exactly.
Well, in the current plan, say it was a poor decision, it turned out to be a poor decision, but we weren't there, we're not part of that board, we don't know what information they were given.
Yeah.
And they may have made the best decision they could have with the information they were given at that time too. So I mean, I'd hate to
And it doesn't.
say someone else did a poor job when we don't know, we weren't there. At least I wasn't, you might have been here, you've been here a long time, but I wasn't here in the seats.
I wasn't here for
I
that
wasn't
one.
here in this, in the thing, seeing what was going on back then.
When did you say I was 99?
Yeah, I just barely came to Colorado then.
Yeah, I remember it. Yeah,
The plants came online in like '05.
Wow.
So what's our date we must say yes to this contract to make sure we meet the January? Because I would like to give Trey time to get all our questions answered and in writing before we approve.
Well, if we go beyond today, Newberry is not gonna, they won't, they'll tell us that we won't have time to get this together by January 17th. They have to get their surveyor and geotech guys out there tomorrow to start. They got to get them on the schedule tomorrow. They can't even schedule them right now until they have a contract. So they would tell us that, and they have told me that they're not going to be able to make January 17th until they have a contract. I mean, today. And we've been working on this since last week. So I think we talked about it last Monday night.
So we won't have all the data to make a decision, but we'll get it after.
Well, what data are you looking for? The kind of plant? I mean, we have had Dewberry in here to talk about that.
What I have is the life expectancy and what's the range of NTU that we can handle. And that's how dirty the water is. Which the NTUs, I want to say they were saying it could be up to, it would handle up to like 900 around there in NTUs or better.
Does our current plant do?
Our current plant, we're only supposed to be hitting it with 1 NTU.
Oh.
And we can't get there.
And I suppose you can give us a list of you could approve the contract with those changes that Mike talked about earlier. Give us a list of questions, and if the questions aren't answered to your satisfaction at our next meeting, we could exercise our 30-day cancellation.
And then they wouldn't have done too much work, so it won't.
Well,
cost us-
they would have gotten the,
Geotech, but you're gonna need the,
geotech.
you're gonna need the.
You gotta
do some of that work
do
anyway.
that, and you gotta do the survey anyway. So,
I can't see muddying this process up. You know what I mean? I think going straight forward with what's happening, I think that's our option. Yeah, I can't see holding it up. I don't think holding up would do anyone any good.
It's not gonna, I don't think it's gonna save us in the long run. I
Not
mean,
at all.
it's gonna be pennies on the dollar.
Right.
It's just not worth.
I think when you consider that the requirement is to choose a
Qualified person, not the cost person.
right, that you're going backward. I think you need, yeah.
Right.
I mean, Kyle, I think, and your instinct is the appropriate one. It is, what options do we have? And making sure that before the town goes down a road where it's spending a bunch of money on consulting, and then ultimately a new water treatment plant that is going to have an impact on your constituents? Have we overturned every rock? Have we truly investigated every option? And my involvement with this has not been at that level, but I would encourage you to sit down with Jeff and with Trey and at least understand from their observations and what they're being told that there aren't many options out there. In fact, there may only be one option.
This one? Yeah. I don't know. I just want to know when we're going to have to do it again.
Well, the thing is, we won't know for sure. I mean, you don't know for sure.
So how
Hopefully
do
not
we know?
before
How do we know
retirement.
we're like picking the right plant?
These plans are pretty much, it's the same theoretical process for water, wastewater. I mean, it's all the same. It's just depending on, you put this tank here before this tank, and you use this product opposed to this product, and this manufacturer opposed to this manufacturer. That's all they're, you know.
And really,
I mean-
it sounds like we're actually better off this time because we're not being pitched some newfangled thing that's
Yeah.
supposed to be the best thing out there. It's the thing that's been working forever.
And there's a chance that this new design is already just a copy of somewhere else.
Sure.
You know.
What
And
do you
if
think?
you
like this
remember
idea?
back
You like
to-
this?
It's pretty much a good idea with the clarifier and the filter, just pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
So remember Dewberry's report that they did, the PowerPoint back in March, April?
Yeah.
They had 4 or 5 different options listed on that,
Yeah, I remember.
that they were gonna choose from, and this is the one we looked at because
We had 4 solutions.
there was 2 on there that would handle the wider range of turbidity that we deal with
Right.
without having to do a lot of process control by the operators. You know, a couple of them, if that river would change 5 to 10 NTUs, you'd have to go into that plant and make process changes. And there was a couple process, like the one that we're looking at, it could change from 5 to 600. And there's really, you don't have to be at that plant to make that change.
Automatic.
It's gonna handle it
Okay.
without a lot of operator interface.
Okay. And that's sort of close to what you're asking, right? With like the highest level of
Yeah.
contaminated water
what I
that
wanna
that
make
thing's
sure,
going to be
yeah.
able to handle.
Is that no matter what we throw at it, we're gonna get clean enough water that the process can
Well, you're
happen efficiently.
above 900 NTUs. It's not water no more. It's not, you're gonna back. You're not gonna want to shove that in your plant. You know.
It's not water.
Have you seen the river
I
sometimes?
know,
mean,
right?
After it rains, man, it does look pretty bad.
So-
So, I mean, I'm going to lean on you guys a little bit on this one. Just, it's not my wheelhouse for sure, but
Well, that's why we have the department heads to help make
Well,
decisions.
see, that's part of my comfort is I've sat in rooms with and listened to Trey,
mm-hmm.
and I know that he cares deeply about what he does, and he takes a lot of pride in what he does. And so I'm basing a lot of trust on the fact that he's comfortable with it, so that makes me much more comfortable.
So I said, yeah, we got rely on the department heads. That's why we have them to make decisions, and our town administrator.
I think it's twofold for me. Like, I'll certainly trust their judgment regarding the plant that needs to be built. You know, I think one of the maybe even the bigger responsibility that we have is how we're going to responsibly pay for it.
Mhm.
You know, and then how we're going to convey that cost to citizens in a time where everything right now is just so dang expensive.
Well, part of that is by getting it done is by approving it tonight, so we have a chance to save potentially $7 million off the top of it, versus not saving that $7 million.
Right. Doing everything possible to save money.
And the CMAR project process should help.
Quick.
Should help with that.
It will accelerate the project.
Yeah.
At least what I'm told, that's part of that experience.
Okay.
Because you bring in the contractor immediately, and the whole CMAR, that means construction manager at risk.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got to perform.
And that construction manager works for us,
Okay.
not for Dewberry.
Correct.
He is an owner's representative, which
Okay.
is who we are. So we can tell him, hey, go do this.
Got it.
And that's what his job is to go do.
Okay.
And he's also buying into a cost prior to construction, so he's held.
Oh, yeah.
There'll be a GM
Yeah.
Okay.
guaranteed maximum price at the end of that.
Price.
Yeah,
So if it goes 5 million over, then it's coming out of his pocket.
You like this
I
proposal?
I do like the proposal, yeah. It was the best option when they presented all the alternatives to us. It's also one with the middle for yearly cost to operate.
Right.
It's not the cheapest, not the most expensive, so as long as it has the potential to actually output what it's supposed to,
Yeah.
then we'll be all right. So.
I would certainly like the opportunity to get the answers to those questions, written into the contract, if we can. Because, I feel like that's an important question for Mayor Reichel. It's an important question to me about the expected life.
In our public,
What's that?
in the public.
Public.
Oh, yeah.
So going back to their $5 million on Dewberry's liability, anything over that would fall on the contractor, or does the town have the potential to purchase a separate insurance policy for this project? And are there insurance policies for cost overruns or
Well, not for cost
or
overruns. There are for, for liability. I don't know. I've never heard of a municipality buying separate kind of malpractice insurance for a contract entity. And again, remember the limitation on liability relates to their professional conduct. So if they mess up the numbers or the drawings or something and it causes a problem at the plant, their liability is limited to $5 million. The contractor, the CMAR, would have a separate set of liability protections. But again, that wouldn't relate to design, that would relate to construction.
right?
And we won't know the specifics on that until we get into the CMAR process, which it sounds like is second quarter of next year.
February, because they have to be on board by the time the documents are signed in March. And that the GM, the maximum,
GMP, yep.
yeah, GMP they have to have that formulated before we sign the documents in March, which is the actual documents on the loan for the water plant.
I believe that even using the CMAR process under state law for construction projects over, $50,000 or $100,000, you still have to bid it. The reality, though, is that the CMAR has a huge leg up because they've been involved in the process from the very beginning. They have the detailed drawings and a good sense of what the costs are, that they usually end up getting the lowest bid. But there will be, when you get to the point of having construction-ready documents and you're going to bid out the construction project itself, that's going to have to go through a formal bid procedure.
I thought the formal bid procedure was when the CMAR came on, and the CMAR was there at the beginning through the construction.
My understanding is that it has to go out for bid, but we can research that further.
Well, it's a huge advantage to have the CMAR in the room when they're designing the plant, when they're getting to these higher percentages of drawings, because they're doing these plants elsewhere. And they know that a 30 by 20 tank is better than a 35 by, I don't know, 40 plant, because and in stainless steel, it's better because they know they can get it, and they know where to get it. I mean, and they know what the prices are, rather than pouring concrete, or,
Yeah.
just terrible example, probably. I'm trying to quote Patrick on that, because that's what he talks about when he talks about the CMAR process. That having those guys in the room is invaluable.
And because of that knowledge, going back to Attorney Sawyer, their bid is normally lowest because they have that insider information, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's a realistic bid.
All right.
Okay.
So I have provided a staff memo recommending that if you move for approval, that it be subject to 3 modifications to the contract that the town attorney will negotiate within the next couple of days with Dewberry. And those modifications relate to Section 4 about ownership and use of the completed engineering documents, Section 14 allowing for termination by giving 30 days notice, and Section 18 striking some legalistic language that prevents the town from making an argument about an offset if there's ever a fee dispute under the contract.
Can you ask for more money on that liability?
You can. I
Just throw it out there, I don't know.
You can ask,
Yeah.
but they're gonna say no,
Yeah.
right, because it's a
Yeah,
process
it sounds
problem,
like he
it
already
sounds
asked for more.
discrepancy.
Right.
They told me that they would have to go get underwriter approval.
Which would take,
Another
put them
vote.
outside their window.
I have just a quick question about that. So, I know Dewberry probably has a number of, senior engineers on the project that will overview that. So is that 100% internally done as far as the final engineering review as it relates to, like, they're having a design defect? Or, do those firms ever farm that out for like a final review to maybe get the liability off of them to verify that there's not a design defect before they, fully submit this thing to be built?
I don't think they've ever communicated outside engineering staff reviewing documents.
Yeah, no, usually it's all in-house reviews.
Yeah, it's like their most
by
senior
other
project
engineers.
man. Okay.
And even if they subbed it out, they're still on the hook for the outcome because they signed the contract, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So if they sub it out to someone cheap and lousy, it's gonna be their problem anyway.
Yeah.
I think they're big enough that they do
Yeah.
everything in-house.
Yep,
Yeah,
that's what it sounds.
they are. Huge company.
Is there a limitation on that? Exposure for them, right? What if that design defect isn't discovered for 12 years?
There's not under state law, there's what's called the statute of repose, which
Okay.
says that you have essentially 6 years to bring a claim from the,
Oh,
more or
okay.
less from
Yeah.
the date of construction. The contract doesn't provide a time limitation, it creates a monetary limitation.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. I don't know. What were you thinking? 10 million? 15 million?
I don't know.
20 million?
Just try to squeeze them for more.
And the whole thing is you hope you don't have to collect on that money.
Yeah.
No doubt,
Yeah.
exactly.
I did try to talk him down off the 1.8, just so you know. Didn't go very far.
I mean, it's actually almost
1.79.
1.9 when you, I mean.
He wouldn't even give me that. He talked about the number of pages that he was anticipating having for their engineers to produce at X number of dollars per page. And I guess that's the way they go about doing this, and he was talking about having to squeeze, try to get fewer pages so that it's less work. I mean, he's worried that he's expressing to me that he's worried that he may have underbid it. That it might cost him more like
sure he's being
2.1.
Sounds like a sales technique.
The only way
vested interest at all.
The only way you can know that is to shop this around, and I guess the only comfort I can offer you is another data point in western Colorado. That design of a smaller plant, their cost is 1.5 for the design of a 0.8 MGD plant.
I mean, I get it. I'm sure it's not going cheaper.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of money for sure. But kind of sounds like we're out of time.
Yeah. All right.
For any of you who've toured a water treatment plant recently, you would know that there's a lot of moving parts in there, a lot of bells and whistles.
There are.
So I'm not surprised it costs that much.
Yeah.
It costs a lot to build a pedestrian bridge over the highway. I mean, just to
Costs way
design
too
that
much to
thing
build that
costs-
thing.
Yeah.
So. At least you get something for this.
It's a pretty fair point.
I mean, you get good drinkable water rather than a 4-foot wide piece of concrete over a highway.
I think it's 8, isn't it, Trey? It's 8
I
feet.
don't remember.
All right. If y'all think this is a good idea, then I think it's a fine idea. So I don't know what alternative there is, so.
There's no plan B.
Yeah.
And
All right.
the plan B is we don't get funding in January, and then we can see where these guys are at and potentially RFQ it at that point.
This is the worst possible time to build a water plant.
Yeah. But like Administrator Lehman said, is this ideal? No, it's not.
No.
But given the current situation, is this our best plan?
Yeah, things definitely don't generally get cheaper as time goes by.
I heard concrete went down price-wise, right? Didn't it go down this year?
No,
Went up and then went down?
it's still up there.
No, it's still up there.
Oh, I was
It's up
trying to be
around
optimistic.
280 a yard.
I'm good with it.
Yep.
Do you want those questions answered before, or does it matter anymore?
We'll get the answers for them.
And we'll get the answers for them, but I don't think it.
Yeah.
It's what if we wait, we're gonna miss the deadlines.
No, I know.
I mean, if they come back and say it'll handle the water in the river most of the time, then we're gonna tell them to go pound their green sand and find somebody else to do
Well, I'm
it.
sure you guys will do it, but they obviously need to get us those answers in a timely fashion and not like on the 32nd day, so.
For 1.8 million, they'll probably be pretty responsive.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
But you live on this side of the mountain too,
Yeah.
and that's not always the case.
I would like the question answered. I don't think it's pertinent to being part of the contract, so.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll get it answered, and I know it's been thrown out there
All right.
on the highest NTU. I just don't remember what it is.
So it'd be a motion to approve the contract with Dewberry with the 3 added items stated by our attorney that are B, C, and D in the memo.
And that those be resolved to the town attorney's satisfaction.
Now who wants to make the motion?
Water guy.
Okay, I didn't write it down.
I didn't write it down. I'm not the water guy. What the hell would I write it down? I'm the data guy. Come on now.
Maybe that was last time.
Well, just since I wrote it down, I will There's nothing that stops me from making a motion, so. Correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Make a motion.
Let's see if I have So I will make a motion to approve the contract with Dewberry for the water treatment plant in the amount of let's see, where's that? In the amount of $1,861,000 and $161,040. With the three items, Section 4, the agreement needs to be modified to allow the town to use the construction plans in the future. Section 14 of the agreement needs to be modified to allow either party to terminate within 30 days' notice. And Section 18 of the agreement should be modified to allow the town to present evidence of an offset if a claim is made for payment of fees. And those need to be resolved to the town attorney's satisfaction.
Second.
All right. Motion by the mayor to approve the contract for Dewberry, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Knott. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
All right.
All right. The next item on the agenda is an executive session.
So that was added to provide you an opportunity to receive legal advice on this contract if you needed it.
All right.
So we don't need to do that then?
No.
Okay, not unless anyone has.
Should we have known that before?
That's what
It
says.
wasn't on the agenda.
It is.
Well, not.
It doesn't say what
Yeah,
this
that's what I
contract
mean.
is
It
about.
doesn't say
It
what
says
it pertains to. Yeah.
Like, why do we have an executive session listed after water plant update on a $1.8 million contract? We discussed the contract for $1.8 million, and then right after that, we're told there's an executive session with our town attorney for that exact contract.
If you would like legal advice on that contract, we've had an ongoing dialogue. If you feel you need legal advice, we can go into executive session.
It's done.
I think we
Rescind it.
I think all the.
I think we covered everything.
I'm
that
the
we
only
would-
one that finds that a little ridiculous.
Well, no, I think we would have covered it if it was, I don't think there's anything I would have asked, that I would ask in the
An
executive session.
executive
that I
session that we
didn't
didn't
ask
ask in public. I'd rather negotiate the contract in public for
Well, and
our
that's, I was gonna say,
citizens.
that's one of the things that several people on this board ran on at the very beginning, was the fact of the ridiculousness of all these executive sessions and not wanting to have them. So now wanting to have one based on something, instead of doing it in public, is kind of redundant.
You realize that the executive session would be a discussion between the board about how to negotiate the contract from $1.8 million.
But there's not really any negotiation to be done anyway.
There, okay. Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion to adjourn by Mayor Pro Tem Knott, seconded by Trustee Britnall. All's in favor?
Aye.
All's opposed? Motion carries unanimously.